today's episode, just a quick word from the sponsor CWD Pond. Whether or not you're building your new koi pond or you're upgrading your existing setup, these guys have got you covered with sleeper pond kits, pond windows, pressure pipe and all the essentials you need to build a pond. And for Koi Perspective podcast listeners, you can enjoy 5% off using the discount code TKPP5. Check them out, all the links are down in the description below. Let's get into today's episode. Hi, and welcome back to another Koi Perspective podcast. Dave's been ruining my introduction every time, so we've got the giggles again. I'm delighted to say this week we've got another guest who is probably hot cargo at the minute, I'd say, Dan. There's a lot of chatter about what it is you're about, but before we get into that, I'm joined again by my two co-hosts, Dave and Si. How are we all doing?
Evening, Joe. Evening, Dan. Dave.
Evening, guys.
Si, Dan. Good evening, Joseph.
So we've been asked to, and I've kind of put out in a podcast before with Josh Satomi to get some koi food content. And I think there's a distinct lack of koi food content out there on the market. And at the moment, whenever you go on like social media or whatnot, all we're kind of seeing is Nutramare. So I'll give Dan a call and wanted to set this up to kind of do a little bit of an introduction. One of the reasons we started this podcast is to give brands a bit of a face and to do like a bit of a, deeper dive into who you are, why you've decided to bring your product to market and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, how are you doing, first of all? Crazy couple of months, I suppose?
It's been unimaginable. I never realised this was going to take over my life as much as it has.
Bit like this podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
The Lord,
honestly,
it's been kind of full on. The wife is helping. I've had my little guy helping at home there, and we're all enjoying it though. So that's the main thing.
So yourself then, do you keep koi yourself? From what I understand,
Yeah.
How long have you been involved with keeping koi?
6 years koi keeper. Kind of got chucked in at the deep end. I've kind of shown every year since I've been in the hobby. Yeah, my passion is showing koi, really. That was what the main aim was all about when I got into the hobby. Family member kind of kick-started the whole interest as a youngster, and as soon as I bought my house, it was like, I'm having a koi pond.
So what's your pond like, Dan? Describe your pond.
So I've got a 2,000-gallon easy pond. Nice concaved window, so mine's like...
Oh, you got the concave, okay, yeah.
Mine's a concave. My main pond. Then got two Tosai raising ponds, so 500 gallons each, drum shower on both. And then I've got two Nisai raising ponds for 1,000 each, and they've both got drums and showers on.
Nice.
I'm a bit of a koi nut. My hobby went from 0 to 100 within 2 years of being in.
I think that's this hobby all over, isn't it? For some reason, it bites you, and then I think we've described it on previous podcasts like heroin.
It really does get hold of you, and before you know it, you're just immersed in this UK koi scene.
Yeah, heroin would be cheaper, that's for sure.
You can't complete koi, can you? It's not like you get to the end of it and go, oh, I've done that. Moving on to the next hobby type thing. It's like this constant. There's always one more Tosai, one more project, one more upgrade.
One more injection.
Yeah, it's like scratch the itch type vibe. Yeah, but no, it's kind of cool that you've been involved in koi before. I think those kind of people make the best. Kind of being involved in the trade as well. Is that kind of your most enjoyable part of the hobby, is raising fish, would you say?
Yeah, I would say raising, I hear quite a lot of people use the phrase at the moment, it's buy cheap and raise expensive.
Mm.
I think that for value right now, it's good to kind of buy a few of something rather cheaply, see if you can raise those said batch of fish, and pick yourself a nice one, and you've kind of seen what they can all do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I would definitely say, I'm just doing my growing again. I know Si's the same situation, and Joe, you're the same situation. Wonderful DIY skills Joe has been sharing with us. Doing an incredible job, aren't you?
Well, I'm not quite sure about that.
It looks really, really good. So people, keep an eye out for that. But I think the funnest part of the hobby is the raising. Without a doubt, isn't it? Whether it be cheap fry, whether it be smaller toes eye that you pick up cheap. And that's the thing, isn't it? Something that would cost you probably up to, possibly north of £1,000, you can pick up for maybe 100, 120 quid, sometimes even cheaper. There's a lot of growing shows out there. It is a good part of the hobby. I probably, when I had my grow on, I spent more time on my grow on than I did my main pond.
Yeah.
Well, one of the main things you're paying for when you get Nisai is the shipping cost, isn't it? Because when you get a 2-year-old fish, you're getting 5 in a box rather than 50. And so the cost of the box is essentially passed on to you when you get Nisai. So I see both sides of it. I mean, shipping is just so astronomical now that you're probably right, Dan. I think it is a case of buying young and then raising expensive, as you said. But raising is expensive at the moment. And one thing that we would say is that there's nothing at the moment in koi that is going down in price. One of the things in that is koi food. So I think that's one of the main things you're trying to do, is bring something more sustainable to people's wallets to market. Is that right?
Yes, but it's not just about the price. If the product isn't comparable to leading brands, then somebody's already done that before. We've already had plenty of guys bring a food in and put a different badge on, a different nice bag. That's all been done before. With us, it's kind of, let's try something different. Let's transparent. Let's let the people what's in and why that food works because of what's in the food. That's kind of where we're going. Good value. That can only be a positive for the hobby, right?
I think it's worth us saying, Joe, so all three of us, I think, feed the same food currently. And just for those listening, this isn't another paid promotion or us bigging something up that we're all using. So this is new to us as well. So we're all using a food that isn't Nutramare. So we're keen to hear about it today, hear why it's good, what's in it that's good, why it's such good value. So, yeah, you're preaching to the
right people.
To the right people, yeah, because we're here to be convinced as well, aren't we?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are pretty much asking similar questions, though, because obviously it's had quite a lot of push out on social media. People have been hearing about it, and I guess a lot of people asking the same question is, what makes it so different to any other food on market?
Well, if you just compare the bag on alone, you got your label out from another brand and looked at ours, you see that there's percentages of what's in the food. You wouldn't just see fish meal, you would see what fish meal we have in our food, which is LT71 fish meal, and then you would see the percentage of that fish which makes up the food. Other brands don't state how much fish meal is in their food.
Before you just go any further with that, then, can you just try and briefly explain what LT fish meal is?
Yes, so LT fish meal is first and foremost a quality controlled fish meal. It's not just any fish meal. The LT is low temperature, so it's 71% protein that's in that fish meal. It's really high in digestion, so you got like a 94 to 96% that will be digested by the fish, which obviously means less waste for our systems, our filter systems to deal with. And in our food, we only have that as a protein source. There's no beans, there's no soybean, there's no insect meal, there's no poultry meal. We just have LT.
So with the low temperature, one of the things that has drawn my attention is that reading about it online is that the fish that they've lived in low temperature water for all their life, they have a much higher immune system themselves, right? Because they're in colder water, they have much harder life, essentially. So for humans themselves, there's studies that show that eating fish that comes from low temperature water is better for human health than picking up a fish that's been living it up in Cuba all its life with pina coladas. I guess is for those that are out there that want a reference, I guess that's probably when it says fish meal, that's essentially what you're trying to say. It's high quality stuff, isn't it? But
the difference is that at lower temperatures, those fish that make up that fish meal, they haven't got those fatty deposits from living in a warm environment. It's a lot more muscular. The flesh that's used, it's higher in protein because those fish have had to really battle to kind of survive out there. Ours is like Scandinavian, so like, really cold.
Yeah.
Some fish meals that are used from other brands are from like Peru and Africa. So it's a completely different level as a quality across the board comparing one to the other. It might be...
I feel like a lot of hobbyists out there, they don't want... This might be a lot of overkill to go like this depth into one ingredient, but with it being fish meal, it's so important in koi food, and I think there's a common understanding that is the case. I think it's really important to understand when you're looking at koi food, even if it isn't Nutramare, to kind of understand what quality goes into that.
And the thing is, if you got dog food, if you got cat food, if you got human food, we all strive to eat the best that we can. Probably me excluded, because I'm a bit of a organic with crap food. Like my dog, I buy the best food that I can afford. Not necessarily the best food, but certainly the best food that I can afford. And I think, it's very easy. And I think the other thing is looking at prices, isn't it? Some of the cheaper foods, actually, when you look at the ingredients, the weights, etc., actually, because it's cheap, doesn't make it good value.
No, completely.
It's kind of like the way that I've always thought about koi food is if you buy better, you have to feed less of it, which in one is less weight on your filters, less weight on your water, and it's less weight on the fishes in terms of all these kind of stresses and things. I guess the person who on the other end of the spectrum would say just chuck loads of cheap food at them and the end result might be similar, but there's a lot of studies that could probably prove that wrong.
I would agree with you there. Our food states only feed 60% of what you would normally feed from other brands.
Oh, wow.
You're not only saving per kilo, you're saving by, for a better word, how powerful our food is. Because we only use that one protein source, it really does, it hits home with the fish.
Yeah.
So aside from protein then, so my pond's covered at the moment, so coming out of, or into springs, coming out winter into spring, one of the things that I begin to think about now is colour. So what is Nutramare's bring to the market, I suppose, for colour enhancement of koi?
I think the difference with us is it's in the one bag, Dave. We include it in our food. We're not asking you to buy another bag that's colour on the front, just so that we can sell you another product. We want to include it so that our food isn't all year round food.
Okay.
That would be the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that at the factory they've got like test ponds, and what they do is they take the compounds used to enhance the colour in our food, and they feed those at different amounts and see how much is too much, how much is not enough. This didn't make any difference. They've done case studies to show we believe this much is what's needed for a koi. Most of our colour enhancements are carotenoids. So you've got annexanthin and you've also got spirulina. They're what you need in a food to bring that penny up to the surface and make it look all lovely like we all want.
Would you have any concerns feeding it to something like a shiro otsuri or something like that, no?
My favourite variety. So for me, I feed colour food to a shiro otsuri every day, and I have done for the past year, and no knee benny. No second benny. Yeah, we're quite lucky in that regard that these tests have been done at the factory, so that I can confidently go, well, that's from the factory's point. Then I've brought it over to the UK and fed 1.5 tons myself between me and friends, all saying the same thing. How is the white so white?
Is there no negative effects on, say, like a shiro otsuri and like staining the shiroji?
No yellowing. Where we would normally get yellow heads first at heavy feeding, and then that would then obviously become into the body. No yellowing, mate. But it's quite astounding, to be honest.
Well, that is a plague, isn't it, the yellowing? I've got a couple, and it's disappointing, especially when you've got a window. To see something that was once quite a crystal colour is now stained is quite frustrating. So we keep saying they and bringing it across. So I think I'm right in saying they're in Germany.
Yes, yeah.
That's Germans that makes this food.
German-based product, manufactured in Germany. All of our, well, I would say, a majority of the products that are in the food are sourced locally, like regionally, from the factory, or as much as we can. That obviously all helps with how fresh the food is. No good putting such a high quality fish meal in your food if it just oxidizes before you know it. The quality is just not there.
Yeah.
You need. So yeah, from a standpoint of the normal German thing, Mercedes, Audi, all quality products, those German guys know how to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Hate to admit it, but yeah, it's the usual, isn't it, with the German engineering. When you close the packet, does it sound like a Golf?
I wish it did. It ain't got tartan seats, don't get me wrong. But yeah.
So Dan, I guess a lot of people might ask if the food is of such a high quality, how is it able to be offered at such a affordable price compared to like other leading brands?
Well, in my opinion, other leading brands have people in the chain. It doesn't just come from the factory to a representative and then, out to the consumer. My route to market at the moment is short. Other brands may have 2 or 3 steps along the way before they reach your koi dealer that then sets his price and decides what he's going to do on that front. So at the moment, what I would say is we're transparent, mate. Our costs are lower. In terms of people putting their margin on, that leaves consumer with a lower price product.
Yeah, because I don't think it's sort of any secret in, well, not necessarily just koi keeping, but in such as things like fish farming and things like that. Fish meal is expensive. A quality fish meal is expensive. A quality spirulina is expensive.
It is.
So so it just makes people ask that question.
I'm with you guys. Before I jumped into this Nutramare thing, it was kind of like, why are these koi foods as expensive as they are? And I can only take it down to what I've just said. It may not be the product itself that makes it expensive. It's how it gets to the end user, which is unfortunate.
I think from your point of view, Dan, I'm sure that before this was an option for you with Nutramare, and I know from speaking to you that you were testing out other things before this as well. But there is something kind of, and not mentioning brand specifically, but there is something quite nice about opening a Japanese sake koi food and feeding it to Japanese fish, and I suspect that there'll be some people out there that is the part of the enjoyment. Was it hard for you to then change your mind, or was it a kind of like results proof is in the pudding at the end of the day, and you want to test this new thing coming to market?
Oh, it's very difficult, and some people will always stay with what they know. I get that. But when you've got such a vast difference in cost, but performance difference isn't the same vastness, it really does make you think it's worth going and know that. Even if you just tried the food and make up your own.
Can we talk about RRPs? Can we talk about cost? Are we allowed to do that on the podcast? Oh, we can. Okay. What does it cost? So if we was to go to someone that retails it, what would it cost for, so if we say a 15 kilogram bag is probably the best example, because that's how, just to try and get a bit of a saving, that's how most people are buying their food at the moment. So what would a 15 kilo bag be? We
do 15 kilos in sinking food, which, again, unlike other brands, we do it per kilo. So what it will be is other brands have a more expensive price for sinking food.
They do, yeah.
So whether it's sinking or floating, the same price. The only difference is that floating comes in a 10 kilo bag, which is £85 plus postage and packaging. But sinking is 15 kilos. And the only reason why it's in a different bag is because a different robot packs it. One robot's set up for 15 kilos, unfortunately, and the other one's 10. If I could have it all in the same, I would, but they don't do it like that. Yeah. So.
And are they both the same size pellet?
Both the same size pellet. Your sinking pellet's slightly smaller, Simon, but yeah, they're a medium-sized pellet in other brands.
So that's what 4 or 5 mil, I suppose, isn't it? Roughly.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, you will have a price difference on the bag. You've got sinking 15 kilos 125 and 10 kilos floating 85.
I guess from a lot of people's point of view, they want to know that a lot of thought's gone into it. Like, obviously, I guess the factory that this stuff is made, it's not their first. This is not their first recipe they've put together, I suppose.
No, they're huge in Europe. Most countries in Europe have got this high on their list. Mm-hmm. It's not a new food that's just all of a sudden popped up and we've got hold of it in the UK and we're trying to run with it. It's a proven product elsewhere. It's just new to us. Unfortunately, we live on an island called the UK, and like we think that, you know, the world's just us. Unfortunately, it ain't.
Yeah.
What?
But no, obviously it's going to be the number one koi food brand in Germany because it's German. So that's obviously a winner. But in other regions, they do very, very well with this koi food. Mm-hmm. Lots of happy customers, lots of happy koi. Yeah.
And you've kind of brought it over first started doing the rounds last year, wasn't it? And you've had people across the country who have been trying it out. And I know somebody, we've had him on the podcast recently, Paul from the Great British Koi Show. I know he's a big advocate of it. He made the switch over last year to Nutramare. And so there have been people in the background kind of trying it out and also doing a lot of like promotion to people they know as well in the background of this food. Like, so it's not untested, is it? Either for those people that might worry about that.
Like last year, it was purely, we've got a nice group of friends, koi enthusiasts. We're all like-minded. We, you know, like most of us, we've all got a little WhatsApp group that we have a little chat and a little this and a little that. And we just got together and said, like, should we give this a go? And you know, everyone kind of give their vote and we had a go. So we got the food across and we just went, we're going to really feed this right up to the All England Koi Show. And yeah, the results, the rest is history. We had 2 majors at the show. Grand champion was fed on Nutramare, and Dave's a big personality. And if he didn't like it, he'd be saying, I don't like it.
What, yeah. Dave? What?
We call him Digger Dave. No, it's Dave Gardner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Dave Gardner. Been to the koi hobby in the south. Yeah, you've probably run into Dave at some point.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I go to the All England, so I was just trying to work out who I've bumped into and who I haven't. I was on my phone there. I'm trying not to be rude, but yeah, so I feed a certain food, so I think it's no secret that's going to be hiked in price this year as well, isn't it? Our food that we use, gents. I was just doing it. It works out about 35 to 40% cheaper, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just the kilo price. You have to factor in that you only feed 60.
Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah.
You're feeding 1 kilo a day. You only feed 600 grams of our food.
Yeah.
That is not just what you're getting on the price of the bag. It's how far you're going.
That is a very bold statement to make. That it is like the pessimist in me is like,
you're calling him a liar, Joe.
I'm not. I'm absolutely not. I'm absolutely not, because I'm sure that you wouldn't make the claim without studies having been made.
Shots fired.
We fed 1.5 tons just for That's not 10 bags.
That's what Joe feeds a month.
You know. So, and like I say, I go back to people like Dave and big characters. They think that nutrition is huge. If they not people that can't, you know, if they wanted to buy the leading brand at the moment, that's not a problem. They can buy it. So it's not from a point of, you know, we want to. Yeah, it really is. They want to search for that quality. You know, that what, you know, and this composition, as soon as you read it and compare it to your lovely brown sack, you'll see.
Yes, sounds a bit wrong, but yeah, all right. Don't you cut that out, Joe.
Really do need to kind of get your bag side by side and just there's proteins in one bag that's not in the other.
Yeah,
reasons for that.
What about another big one for me? So I've been really happy with the food I'm on. I'll make that clear. Really, really happy. Seen a huge difference. But one of the things that I do struggle with is that tinge in the water when you're heavy feeding. It's probably the single most thing that drives me crazy in this hobby. When you start to feed heavy, it is the effect that it has. Not so much on the condition of the water, because obviously filtration takes care of that. But that tinge is very hard to overcome. How does Nutramare?
You won't get any brown tinge, no oils on the top of the water. Yeah. I kind of, it just does what it says on the tin, mate. It really does. Like, you have all those little bits and bobs that other foods gripe you with.
Mm.
It sounds positive. That's
It does sound positive.
Intrigues me. That does.
I think that's why I think it's been so popular, is because it almost sounds it's too irresistible to not try it and see. And like, from my point of view, I'm getting this testing tank to test things out on. And what I really want to do is like conduct an experiment on my YouTube channel and get some fish and actually weigh them in a bowl and then feed them and see what like the actual digestibility of it all is and how much they actually put on versus how much food is put in. So I'm going to maybe try and do some experiments, and Nutramare might be the first one that I do, just because there's so much chatter about it at the minute. Obviously, one of the reasons why, and one of kind of like the more touchy subjects of it, is at the minute you supply direct to people, don't you, from your website. So there's no like dealer with that in that chain, and so probably one of the reasons why you can supply it at, a good price. A lot of people will still want to support their koi dealer as well. And like, my argument is, if you've got more money in your pocket that you've saved on your koi food, more money to spend on fish at your dealer as well. Like, there is that argument.
Yeah, and I don't think I've come across a dealer that actually, I could be completely wrong, but the ones that I've spoke to, dry goods and foods and things like that are a bit of a pest. Their money is more in the koi stock in terms of uplift. Dry goods tends to be something that comes along with the koi industry, that a lot of the dealers do it because they have to do it. That's what the people that I've spoke to have said that. I say I could be wrong, but...
Well, the other competitors' feeds as well, like, that are out there, not a lot of them actually get sold at RRP as well. A lot of people are selling them below just so that they can offer the customers like decent prices. They're not selling it at RRP.
Yeah, I bought my last bag come from my local dealer, and I felt they gave it to me trade because they just something they wanted to add on. I buy my fish and things like that there, so they gave it to me trade, so that they've not made any money off that.
It's kind of a race to the bottom, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah.
And I guess from some people, they'll still want to like feel like they're supporting their local dealer who they buy from at the minute. I guess that's an argument, isn't it, for some people out there?
I think for us, we didn't want to come straight out and put it in all these different dealers and nobody know about the food. Nobody tried the food. So if you stock a dealer with 10 bags, for instance, on their shelf, and nobody's talking about it and nobody's fed it, how does that dealer sell that food? You're asking to do the impossible. So what we're kind of trying to do for 2025 is, let's get people talking about this food. Let's get people trying it. Let's get good results in that we're all talking and all smiling about. That then creates a customer base, which then helps dealers in the future sell that product. No point going into dealers if there isn't a customer base. That's just my opinion. That's the way that so far been going very well. People are interested. They want to try it.
How did you become linked to Nutramare then, Dan? How did that happen?
Complete accident. I was in the right place at the right time. I had a short conversation with them over a Facebook message, like we all do these days. Social media is such a powerful thing. I was asking all the questions that you guys are asking. How about this? And why do we do that? And why koi food? And they was just so forthcoming, with information. And I'm a bit of a sponge. I asked for more and more and more, and before I knew it, it was like, I've got to try and get some of this stuff. I don't know how, but I'm going to try. So the conversation came up, and that whole, with a bunch of friends, we obviously had to buy a certain amount, because otherwise why would a company like that supply. And we all kind of went, we're going to have a go. This could be good. And that is it. It was very much right place, right time. And once the results were in from feeding so much of the food, and we all had that same confidence, and everybody's all saying the same things, it was like the people need.
Yeah.
Boy, hobby needs this. This shouldn't be between select, 15, 20 guys. This should be for everyone to enjoy. And that's why I've this year gone, well, I'm going to give it a go. I don't know whether it's possible for someone like me who is from a hobbyist background. I'm not quite professional. Don't profess to be one, but I am passionate about my hobby and about how people are spending their hard-earned money on things that maybe they could get better value elsewhere.
So is this now your only job, Dan, or do you do something else in the background?
No, I've had the same job forever. I've got family business. My parents own it, and we run a tanker company. So very different business.
Tanker company?
Yeah, where there's muck, there's brass, my dad says.
Yeah. So when you say tanker company, you mean taking away waste in tankers, or you actually sell the tankers?
No, we take away waste in tankers.
Okay, what company is that then? Because I work for Balfour Beatty, so we're using tankers all the time.
We're called
sorry?
the BAS Group.
Oh, okay.
So we do like a lot of pumps and sewage and all of the lovely stuff that not a lot of people want to do. But
that's cool.
So I guess you'll have awesome pond sump pumps and all that kind of stuff at home then.
Filtrate. I'm like a pond geek, if I'm honest. And yeah, I love all that water treatment side as well as the fish. So I'm kind of, overall, the whole hobby, not just fish. It's like filtration, nutrition, everything about it. The show scene, because that's completely different to what normal keeping koi is about as well. That's got its differences.
We are one of the things that myself included in this, is that everybody at the moment, I think, is feeling like the pinch. But with koi, it's a massive decision to move away from something that you think is so important. Koi food's so important, and heating is so important. You've got these two major components, and we're all feeling this pinch. And it's like, in some ways, instead of having my pond unheated or going to a cheaper, lesser koi food, I'd rather just close it down. Do you know what I mean? If I weren't heating and I weren't feeding, and I don't know if I'd be like, I'd rather close this down.
Really?
I'd make other sacrifices in my life.
Oh, okay.
Turn the heat. Do you know what I mean?
This is if it was very, very, very. It was a definitive decision. It was the last thing you could do. So things like getting rid of your wife and that. Obviously, we put those first, and then
then the koi pond. Yeah. But do you know what I mean? And so for a lot of people out there that are probably just like, my electricity bill's how much, and then my food is how much, and then I'd hate to think that maybe some people are just getting a bit. Is this too much now? And I think there is going to be a bit of a change in koi, and the koi food market has become stagnant over the last few years. Honestly, it has. We don't see much content from anybody in koi, and I think I've reached out to everybody. And it's not to say I haven't been supported by some of the big brands as well, but I do think there's a major change. I think it's right time for someone like Nutramare to kind of mix it up, and for a new brand to come in. And people feeding your koi is the number one thing to do in this hobby, isn't it? Everybody goes out on a morning and feeds the fish. It's the most enjoyable part of the hobby. And if you can't enjoy it because you just think that's £6 gone there, and half of it's gone down skimmer,
I think as well, though, if you look at the spider graph, it's the best thing to do in koi. It's the most enjoyable thing to do. But if you look at the spider graph, food directly translates to health, water quality, amounts of waste, a clarity of water. So as much as it's the most fun thing to do, and I think we've all been at our ponds and stood there and thrown a handful in and then gone, look, they're still wanting more, so you throw another handful and then another handful. And to be able to do that guilt-free, both financially and effects that it would have on the water, would be quite nice, I have to say.
Yeah.
I say hobbyists that are out there thinking they may be trying Nutramare might ask if there's sort of an information bank out there so they can see fish what's being raised on Nutramare.
We're trying to come forward with a lot of posts from people that have used our food, kind of like a before and after comparison.
Yeah.
So that will be going up sort of over the next few weeks. You'll get koi hobbyists that have sent pictures in that this is what the koi looked like before, and I've been using it for said amount of months, and this is what it's like now. So we're trying to incorporate all that on our social media.
Because it's like going back to what Joe was saying. It's when you've been feeding a certain food for an elongated period of time, it is difficult to come away from that food when you know how well it's been doing for your pond and your fish. So there's always that aspect into it, isn't there?
It definitely, and I was you. I did feed the same food, but we all want the best of what we can provide as long as finances are available. I didn't necessarily think, I want to come away from that high. That's such a good food. It is a good food. It just was it sustainable? Can I do this, forever? And when prices just keep rising, I just couldn't do it. And the amount of food I feed a day, it's just impossible. 3 kilos a day that's what I feed in the height of summer. So it's not 500 grams, it really does over the week and month builds up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just having a look at the words. So who's David Otto? Is he German? I'm assuming.
Yes, he's a German, but no, he's the big boss.
Okay.
He went and did his university master, and he's the guy that really is the science behind it all. He's the guy that when I spoke about the test ponds, he's the man. He's doing all the tests. He's taking obviously samples of the fish that are in the test ponds and making these judgments to improve the food. Once if he was to find an improvement, that then comes down the chain to us, the end consumer. That's how they do it. He's a very, very bright guy. Very bright.
And obviously, so as well as the UK now, so just reading there, it's also the US that it's being pushed out to. So aside from, so are they across Europe as well, or just Germany?
No, they're across Europe. I know Italy, Denmark, the Netherlands. I know the Netherlands have got their own foods, but there are dealers that are stocking our food out there. It's widely used, Dave. It's just new to us.
Yeah, we're usually the last to hear about things anyway.
In koi, I think the UK always used to be the first with things. We were probably one of the first, European countries to start importing koi to high level and things like that. Whereas now it kind of feels like the opposite way around. Like everybody's so stuck in the ways because of that old age reputation we had.
But we're across every industry. We're like that. So you look at the car manufacturing industry. You go back to sort of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and then the world then took over again, doesn't it? We seem to have this habit of getting something. We're a creature of comfort. We get it, we stick with it, and the rest of the world, building houses out of bricks and mortar. It's only now that we're building timber frames. Yet, go to Sweden, places like that. They've been building timber frame for hundreds of years. Oh, all of a sudden it's a fad, and let's get on with it. But yeah, no, it is interesting, very interesting to hear about. And certainly, as you said earlier, you touched on, didn't you, Joe, about the pinch. So we've got a water hike about to happen. We've got gas, electricity hike at the moment, similar to last year. I mean, we all thought it would creep up over COVID, but it's never come back down, has it? With the Russia war and already at the start, we're only in February and we're already hearing of more hikes, which it's a bit of a depressing start. All we need now is some flukes and some Costia, and that'll be about. I think people will start shutting down ponds again, won't they? So to get something positive on the market, it feels good, doesn't it?
It does feel good, but I think always, like with everything, I think it's going to be really difficult because Dan says the right answer to everything we ask, and until I try it, I You know, like I just naturally, that's just how I am. I'm a bit of more of a glass half empty type of guy. And if something sounds too good to be true, the way I've been brought up is to believe that it's not. But I want to try it because I'm intrigued. That's just who I am.
I think what's quite cool as well, we're not asked, I don't need it to do better than my current food. I just need it cheaper. I don't need a product. You know, I'm happy with the product. If it can reach the same levels and the same results, but be cheaper, I'm content with that. Just the cheaper side of things right now is, I think it's at the forefront of everyone's minds because, you know, I'm just building a grow on, and even my mum came around earlier. She looked at it and she said, why would you build that when energy prices are about to go through the roof? And I looked at her and I thought, yeah, she's always right, that woman.
Brilliant. But to be honest, Dan, like, we're saying it like us four here are all, you know, there'll be people out there that aren't heating their ponds, and this could be like an affordable, you know, it's not just for, this isn't designed for champion grade ponds, is it? This food, it can be for that as well. And what you're saying is it can go up against the very best in its quality, but the price point makes it accessible to anybody, even if you're not raising show quality fish.
And let's talk temperatures, actually. So is it 360? The food is called, isn't it?
It is.
Nutramare 360. So the other thing that's frustrating is getting to 18, swapping foods over to a growth food, and then at the end of the year, if I decide to drop back below 18. So with the 360, what are the temperature parameters for feeding?
Firstly, we're a multi-season food, so you won't be changing bags anymore. It is only the amount of food that you feed which regulates the temperature, really. So we feed right down to 8.
Yeah.
But that is very sparingly. You know, you're giving them a little handful, and that is it. To your wheat germs and you know, other low temperatured foods. The idea is 1 bag all year round, done.
That is crazy, that. But it's crazy to think that the amount of... I'm guessing that's because it's just so digestible. It doesn't really matter what temperature it's at, is that right?
Exactly. The protein source is everything. If that's the most digestible part, you lose it. You know, it really is. That's the whole point of the food. The point is that it's highly digestible. Less waste in our ponds. Less waste for our filters to deal with.
Yeah.
How would that translate to, say, for example, someone that's big into showing fish? I mean, I'm no expert. I've only done one show myself, but they might feed a certain food, obviously, to grow the fish throughout the season, and then when they're coming close to the show, they might possibly change to a different food to condition a fish. Is there no need for any of that with Nutramare?
We have got a food that will help you do that if you choose that that's what you want to do. It's called sensitive, but it's not a necessity. If you want to take the extra leap and say, right, well, 4 weeks before the show, 2 weeks of those 4 weeks are going to be on a lower protein food, and we're going to clear out the fish and make sure that all of its colour's beautiful and the whites are white, and you know, but we haven't had those problems. All the previous kind of, you know, it kind of chucks it all out the window, Simon. Like we're going, oh well, we need to prep these fish, but they're already white.
Yeah.
You know, we understand for transport and for obviously wasting the vat at a show, we have to make sure that the fish hasn't been fed. But from a changing of food because our fish was yellow, we ain't got that problem. So it purely is down to a preference. Do you want to, you know, go that real extra mile? Do I do it? No, I didn't do it last year, and my fish, I was very, very happy with how they was presented in the vat. As were others. They didn't change to the sensitive food, even though the manufacturer says this is an option. But no, mate, 1 bag. No food, no wheat germ, 1 bag.
Interesting.
It does sound nice, doesn't it? It does sound nice. And for me, it's measurable. So, like I said earlier, we're talking with the staining on the koi's head, the tinge of the water, and my wallet. So those 3 things are really easily measurable to me. So, yeah, I'm keen to give it a go. Very keen.
I think the other thing as well, like we talk a lot about the protein, and it's quite obvious from speaking with you that that's like a major part of the brand identity and what it is that you're doing. But like, there's some really cool stuff like on the back, like cumin, thyme, rosemary, oregano. Like that to me sounds like quite a nice spaghetti bolognese without the cumin. But I just wondered, like, these things that are all in there. Is there any like particular reason, or because?
Yes, definitely. That's another big part of the food are the health enhancers. But even in humans, herbal health is a big thing. A lot of people believe that herbal things can help with certain ailments and stresses and relieving of stress. Well, that has no difference to koi. Those things that are in the food, i.e., you just said rosemary, thyme, oregano, antioxidants. Environment is stressed due to parasitical problems or temperature, whatever that might be in that pond or the environment where the fish live. These are relievers.
Yes.
With us also, these health enhancers, they're not just a couple of bay leaves shucked in or a bit of rosemary. Like it's an extract. It's oil. To produce that oil, it takes a lot of kilos of said product to make an extract, which makes it very strong. So it's not just we're going to place a tiny bit of rosemary in our food so that we can state it on the back of the bag. We're going to make an extract, make it powerful, so it does something, and put it in the food.
It's interesting that because I saw in Japan, there was a parasite food in Japan, like dedicated to cleaning the gills of parasites, and it was called, that translation was 7 herbs, and it had like almost like the herb, like a herb listing. And so when I saw those herbs on the bag, I thought,
and a lot of them, they've got properties of antibacterial. They've got properties that, like I say, major stress relievers. We've got. I know that oregano is almost like a natural antibiotic. It's not the antibiotic, of course, but in the sense of from a herbal standpoint, that's where you would be looking at. It really, it's another plus. It's something else that sets our food apart. We put in a small amount of something so we can put it on the back of the bag. It is from extract, and extracts are not cheap to produce. You have to use so much produce to make that extract that it's another quality item.
Well, I think it's been interesting that, I mean, I feel like myself, it's very easy with this to get quite giddy about it, to be honest. And to be honest, like I've said, feeding your fish is something that everybody should be enjoying all the time, all year round. It's the most enjoyable part of the hobby. So, if what you've heard today from Dan sounds interesting, check out, I'm sure I'll put the links down in the description below to go and check out the website and maybe pick yourself a bag up to have a go with it. Because, if you don't experiment with these things, you're never going to know. But I'm sure in about a year's time, we should have some people that have been through a season of using it. For those people who are a bit more dubious about it, they can wait a year and see what people achieve with it.
Because I'd never thought about this before, do it with the dog food, but I never thought about a koi. If you are going to swap foods over, isn't it? Gradually, slowly. Don't just switch foods. Do it gradually, mix them in.
We say 50-50.
Yeah.
Sort of get it in the system. 2 weeks, I would say. And then you'll be properly onto it.
Yeah. Is it right that the last batch that you had in fully sold out?
No. We put a post up, and like most of us British, we read the big bold writing that said sold out. We didn't read the rest of the post. I did have it changed. It says almost sold.
No.
But some of the funny.
It got me.
Yeah.
He got me as well. I messaged him. I went, bloody hell, you've sold out already.
You've got to understand, guys, I didn't realise how this was going to go. We've sold like a lot of food in the last 2 weeks, more than we thought we was going to sell. You can't stop 10.
Mm.
You have somewhere to put it, and it's a investment straight away.
Mm.
Has your poor dad been lumbered with storing this stuff?
Luckily, I'm really looked after. You know, he been ever support. Yeah, I've been lucky in that sense.
But you did tell me a funny story the other day, though. Sorry. And he was saying he was rocking up to Royal Mail with all these bags of koi food, and he's been posting them out hand by hand at Royal Mail, and Royal Mail have basically told him, "Mate, get out of here with all these bags! Like, you're doing my head in with all these koi bags." They basically told you, like, go and get yourself a courier.
Yeah, we've outgrown Royal Mail. They've said that you either need to get it picked up. If you've got a day job, you can't sit in all day and wait for them to come round to get it. So I work that into my day. Every night I'm packing food, and in the morning I'm sending it out to our customers. I'm a bit funny with posting, I'm honest. I went with the best service that I thought was available, which is your 24-hour tracked. If I'm buying a koi food, I want it to turn up quick. So that's what I went with. Unfortunately, a lot of messages have come back because not everyone feels the same as me and they want a cheaper option. So I am looking into a cheaper option. Hopefully that's going to be the same level of service that Royal Mail did give, which don't know whether that's possible. We've sent out, more than a ton of food via Royal Mail, and we haven't had one bag damaged and we haven't had one bag lost. So that to me is a big thumbs up.
That's a big part of the business, isn't it, with customer feedback? Well, I think we've had the Hermes, we've had the Everys, the amount of times. I mean, I come home earlier, we'd ordered stuff from Next, and I live on a main road near a school, and they literally stood the bags, presents up against there for my wife's birthday. And literally anyone could have just picked them up and walked off of them. And you just think, what are they thinking when they do stuff like that? So, yeah.
What do you think the main differences are the main benefits over feeding a sinking food to a floating food or vice versa? Because I've heard people before in the past switching to a sinking food if they maybe trying to build the body up on a fish. Do you think that maybe because a koi, obviously being a carp, might find it more natural eating off the bottom, so they'll be able to eat more food and bulk up quicker?
I would say there's a lot to be said about that comment. I can only give you my opinion from my experience. I think we all like to look at our koi and study our koi in terms of, is there anything untoward going on? So when you feed floating food, it's a lot easier to see the fish, isn't it? Up at the top feeding. But no, if it's ultimate performance that you're looking for, then mix your food. Have your really competitive stock up to the top and eating and flourishing at the top. When you've got your more shy fish, they find it easier that most of the fish are at the top eating at the top and they can eat at the bottom. It gives everybody a chance, doesn't it?
My personal experience is that bigger fish prefer to eat off the bottom. I don't think big fish like flapping around on top of water, to be honest.
Unless you've done the really stupid thing like I've done and put a sturgeon in the pond. So sinking to me, honestly, the sturgeon just wolfs food down. So I have to feed from the top, unfortunately.
I think it's just preference. I think a lot to be said. What you did say, it's more natural, isn't it? Eating from you probably don't see carp in fish lakes eating a lot at the top. It's all food, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, I would agree with you, mate. I would say.
I'd just expect them, obviously, with them naturally being a bottom feeder and obviously that downturn mouth, maybe, they'd find it a lot easier to eat a lot more food off of the bottom, therefore possibly enable them to bulk up quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There isn't any difference in the sinking food to the floating food with us. It's the same composition. It's just got some germ in it to make it sink. There's no difference. Yeah. Not getting any benefits into the actual in the food.
I always worried about the bottom of the pond because you can have as many bottom drains as you like and there is stuff on the bottom. I always worry about them churning stuff up with their mouths, and I always feel like things like mouth rot and stuff like that. It's probably a ridiculous thing to think, but It always worries me for some reason.
I'm the other way around. I actually now would, I think, prefer a sinking food.
Well, I'm still using floating. I mean, I've never. That's why I asked the question. Because it's something that I've never really given a try. A sinking food.
It'd be nice to lose that batter on top of the water, because even though I've got one of the EA feeders and that launches it all over the place, it still works itself towards the edges or the sides. And then you watch them feeding, don't you? And you think, wait for the knocks and the bangs, because they're pretty brutal when they eat.
Yeah, split fins as well. Yeah. You got super competitive fish like split fins.
I've just noticed one of mine now has got a split dorsal, and I think that's just where I'm just charging around each other.
Yeah. But no, that's been really interesting, and I hope you've enjoyed it, Dan. It's been good, and I'm just glad to get the koi food content, because there's just not many brands out there that are willing to jump on a podcast and do that kind of stuff. So I'd appreciate if people show Dan some love, go and follow him on Facebook and stuff with Nutramare and stuff like that as well. And it's been really good. I'm sure we'll probably see you at some koi shows this year as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely down south. I will see, because everyone's up north, aren't they? Everyone's Birmingham or beyond is what I'm finding. But it's nice to actually speak to someone that's from down south.
It's going to be my first visit to the Great British Koi Show this year. I've heard great things. So having a walk and a talk around and giving out some information, and I want to have the food there for people to see, at touch, feel, smell, that kind. We will be hitting the show scene this year.
Awesome.
Well, I look forward to seeing some results. Fish of what's been fed on it for a while as well.
That's definitely something we're going to be doing via the social media site, which is Nutramare UK. We'll be providing before and after pictures with information of how long that fish was being fed on the food. Once, obviously, the weather starts helping us out a little bit and people want to take covers off and the like, that's also going to help for getting all this information in.
Yeah.
The hobby is sleeping or just starting to wake up.
But at the same time, being able to feed down to 8 degrees but still getting the protein in, all of a sudden people can start, if we are heated, because next year I've been at 22 most of the winter. I've got to look to go down a bit next year. But to be able to continue feeding decent protein at a lower temperature, that's got its savings as well. So it'd be good to try. It's been a nice chat today. I wasn't sure what to expect. I thought koi food, it's a bit boring, isn't it? But actually it's turned out to be completely the opposite. So
I think people have been dying for this podcast, to be honest.
One last thing, come spring we're going to be launching our feeding app. So you'll be able to enter your stocking level, how big your koi is, how many of that said size you've got, and you will put in all your information and it will spit you out how much food you should feed every day. It is tailored for our food, so it's not for other brands. It is for our food. So when it comes out, don't put your other brands in and think that you're going to be able to feed the same. You're not. But as something different for the UK koi scene, we will have an app that helps you feed the correct amount of food.
Nice little thing to have, isn't it? And
that is a nice touch.
It's just a bit of innovation, isn't it? That's been really awesome. So thanks again for coming on. I'm sure it's not the first or the last time that we've heard of Nutramare, but I'm looking forward to hopefully testing it out myself as well in future. So stick around. And I've got to do, just before we go, I'm going to do a really selfish plug now. We've recently launched some T-shirts and mugs for the... I'm going to make me believe it again.
To see one of them T-shirts, Joe.
Yeah, we've got T-shirts and mugs now for the podcast, so if anybody's interested in them, they're available. But it's been awesome. And if you've got any questions, drop them down in the comments, and I'm sure that we'll get back to Dan on them. But yeah, it's been good. So we'll see you next week on the Koi Perspective podcast.
Thanks, Dan. See you later,
Cheers,
Joe.
Dan.
See you later, Si.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All the best.